Gonna be a fun one. Champion select has begun. Best of 5 to determine who is going home with a third, fourth place finish and who is moving on to the World Finals in a week's time. Jace off the table, listen the same.
For people just tuning in to the World's tournament here, Jace has been a huge pick for SK Telecom, mainly for the top lane, for Huni, and they have used it and its early pressure to split up enemy teams.
I absolutely think that the analyst desk had it right. It felt like SKT needed Huni on the Jace or on the Trundle to create the pressure because largely their bot lane was losing and mid lane was going even. So Huni was that pressure valve. He allowed them to get to the later game, to get the items up with his pressure. Banning away Jace in the first round is expected. No Trundle ban, at least in the first round.
Yeah, one of the biggest things coming into this match was, even though there's so much ridiculous history between these two teams, they've been looking very different here at this tournament.
I want you to notice something. Lulu is the final ban on red side here from SKT. Janna is available, but so is Galio. SKT are rolling the dice and saying there's 3 strong picks.
Sejuani.
And Sejuani being up 2. There's a lot left here. There's a kind of a bounty of meta picks available.
Plus you need to take into the account that Royal actually have used Soraka into the Janna before, and everybody's used to seeing Janna first pick, Janna first pick, but they do have other options.
I want to note that Janna Caitlyn, the duo that really WE debuted and pushed forward, is available as an entire duo. Tristana has been preferred over it, but the duo power wasn't on display in quarterfinals because it was never available at the same time.
Also, with teams having more practice and more time to prepare against the early sieging strategy like that, that doesn't have an outlet valve for the late game, you have to be much more worried about opting into that. Plus, the Tristana has been extremely big for Uzi, knocking down towers in a similar fashion, and the Galio has actually put a stop to a lot of those choices.
The bans here are so interesting. The Gragas ban in particular is targeted towards Blank. Neither of the SKT junglers have found success on the Gragas this tournament. And with Caitlyn left up, RNG, with this pick and ban so far, is saying, we're taking it late. We're not going to try and emulate Misfits Pickstar. We're not going to try and emulate AHQ's Fizz Sejuani. We're ready to go late game, and they don't feel like SKT can close, so they're happy to go the biggest scaling duo of Twitch and John.
And as we said, We'll Never Give Up have shown different strategies before, but at this tournament, it has been them looking so much more controlled than ever before in the past and playing to those late game team fights. You say that Misfits won't show up here in RNG side, but SK Telecom have learned from it as well.
I think they're learning also. They see the extra scaling and they add on a variable that RNG may not have expected. They considered the Rakan by far the more normal of supports, an engaged support that can take the Ardent Sensor. SKT look like they're opting out of Ardent Sensor in game 1.
The ode to Ignar starts right now. SK Telecom with the first piece of Galio makes it very easy for them to craft a strategy around the bottom lane. Galio is the most important, where he could join super early on and provide that front line. You want to have extra pressure around a Blitzcrank pick. You never want a Blitzcrank pick to be left on its own in the side lane.
And so now it's up to RNG to realize what exactly is SKT's strategy. Are they still slaves to Ardent Sensor? Is it the Ivern, the Nidalee, the sensor users in the jungle role, or maybe a Karma mid like we saw out of some of the European teams as well? Or are they bucking the trend entirely, as we saw in their Game 5 victory in the quarters?
I mean, Blank has never played a professional game on the Ivern. A couple from Peanut, never from Blank. So already surprising. And Nidalee banned as well.
Yep.
So RNG is saying no Ardent Sensor from the jungle, largely no Ardent Sensor from anyway. Very, very interesting.
Now, something that hasn't come up before, but I did see in Huni's solo queue, he played top lane Karma, plus it could be a top lane Galio and a Karma in mid lane. So if they really, really had to dig deep for an Ardent Sensor, that pick would be available. However, it would seem like they would have a lot lacking in damage with this profile they've already locked in the Zac.
The takeaway and step back and appreciate, there is an insane amount of backline dive on SKT. Zac goes in, Galio joins him. Maybe Blitzcrank has already started the fight. Janna is enough to reset Galio. That was why I was surprised that Galio was prized over Janna. But when you add in other initiation options, that's just not enough. Janna cannot peel everyone away.
In addition to the fact that Blank himself starting here is an abnormality for SK Telecom at this tournament, and he has played Zac versus Mlxg in the past successfully as well. So we'll see if they can pull it off again with the Malzahar answer though into the Galio. We have another switch.
And I don't even know which lane it's going to just yet. If it's mid or top, of course, top it should be good into Shen, but these are flex picks still. You've got to wait to see. Every single champion, aside from maybe Trish, has ways to get on that trench.
SKT can have the biggest disaster in bot lane for the Twitch, because suddenly every member of their team can impact bottom in an instant, just with the Gangplank ultimate into the rest of what they're doing. This is also the clearest win condition draft we've seen at all worlds. It's engage mid-game from SKT with some late-game options against RNG with scaling everywhere.
We have talked so much this tournament about the favorite teams failing to innovate, failing to adapt. Yet SK Telecom here, right out of the bat, a big switcheroo in the champion select, whilst RNG are playing the same style that we have seen this tournament, and they have executed on it so far this tournament. It's up to SKT to upset that game plan.
Really excited to see the favorites coming in and turning it around. The Gangplank, I'm almost certain the first Gangplank of Worlds so far, bringing that one there. And I was wondering, like, when are we going to see more carry tops to fight against the tanks we're seeing constantly? Huni, no surprise the one to do it on this Gangplank.
I was actually expecting Gangplank, but against Galio in the mid lane, because Pawn on KT Rolster had shown that was a semi-counter pick to all the Galio. But this time it's with the Galio. Remember that Gangplank can often be turret dive. Galio can also try to relieve pressure there, so SKT really have a robust early to mid-game comp for certain.
We definitely need to highlight the areas where they can be taken advantage of. As you said, diving in the early game, it often comes down to jungler presence, and usually we're talking about Zach has to scale up, you know, doesn't have a very offensive look early on. Sejuani actually is a champion that can look for a level 3 play, whereas Zach gonna need some extra levels in the elastic slingshot. Phreak, take us onto the Rift.
We are onto the Rift. The semifinals of the 2017 League of Legends World Championship begin right now. Royal Never Give Up, representing an all-Chinese team in their home country here in Shanghai, versus the defending world champions of SK Telecom T1 from South Korea. An innovation down the line for SKT.
Let us set the stage lane by lane here, because all of these matchups are incredibly interesting. And we'll start with the mid lane, Faker on Galio again. We saw this tournament how extremely proactive he was on this champion, ganking before level 6 with the roam and not getting behind in farm at all.
Uzi himself with an ode to that point, makes a visit to the mid lane.
They get some damage on a Faker, that doesn't feel too bad. Couple hundred damage down, he's forced to run right out of mid lane, and it's now too late to recall. He burns one of his 2 refillable potion stacks before the lane even starts.
Now, they won't put down any offensive vision here to complement the invade, but the matchups are really interesting one. We've seen it once before at Worlds. Caps was playing it against XiaoHu on the day, I believe. It was there. It's a scaling matchup. In the late game, what this means for RNG is that the front line is vulnerable, whoever it is. Galio gets Malzahar altered with the percentage damage. It allows RNG to play how we call front to back. They can focus on the front line. Between Malzahar and Twitch, you can shred frontliner from SKT. Now, shred is always a situational word, but given Galio, you actually do shred in the late game with how much percentage damage the Malzahar can do.
There are going to be some situational difficulties, of course. Huni with the Origins can break out of Nether Grasp for free, doesn't have to buy Quick Service Sash ever. And Faker and Blank are going to be, we're going to love to buy Magic Missile and buy an Adaptive Helm. Based on the gold values here, they can be invincible even to a high damage base like Malzahar.
And that will bring us down to the bottom lane, my friends, because once those solo lanes do hit level 6, we talk about supporting this aggressive Blitzcrank pick. So the Gangplank ultimate, while it can be used defensively for his own lane to clear out minion waves if he's getting pressure, can also be used offensively bottom lane in combination if Faker wants to get down there with the Galio. So that will mean a close eye. We'll have to pay attention down here to Bang and Wolf and how they do play this early game.
And it's going to be really cathartic for Wolf to be on the other foot, because consider, he was actually playing the Taric to the Blitzcrank coming through from Ignar, getting hooked at level 1, largely losing lane to the Blitzcrank, allowing him to be a playmaker again, has to feel good.
Well, you talk about level 3 ganks on Sejuani, looking at that right now on towards Huni. LetME a bit injured, but Huni knows he doesn't have oranges. He got the barrels in the queue, and LetME looking for the time. He's going to land that again. No way out just yet. LetME gets the slow. Here comes the chase, lands the kill! First blood, and the Chinese crowd goes wild!
Beautiful stuff from RNG. RNG, they confirmed that there were no oranges on Huni. He was level 2, hadn't skilled it. You're very squishy on the Gangplank, too early for the Galio to bail him out. Big first blade for RNG.
Once again, it is Mlxg to make the first move, but bottom lane they find a hook.
Good damage on half HP, but now they're out of cooldowns, and so Wolf goes down to half HP. The difficulty of all-inning when you don't have damage to back up the hook, you put in a shield and Uzi's got damage. Ming and Co doing a good job in that 2-on-2, though they are down farm right now.
Yeah, no big purchase for Huni. Started Sapphire Crystal, wanted a first item. Sheen wasn't able to get it. These trades, remember, they haven't played this style so far at Worlds, so the trades are always going to be a bit new. It's fresh on stage. This was perfect.
And a lot of the big, 1v1 advantages of Gangplank into Shen that we were talking about in Champ Select, come through with, yes, armor penetration and being able to use the Ornn to exit CC combinations, but that's why we highlighted the power of Sejuani going for a level 3 possibility of a gank, finding it there before Huni even gets a chance to skill the ability up.
I mean, the lane itself is very strong if the Gangplank is left to his own device. In a true 1v1 with Blank providing coverage, then it's great, but Blank's on the Zac. You want to opt out of skirmishes early. You're not likely to be putting down defensive wards, killing the Scuttle Crab in the face of the Sejuani. You lose a trade if you use your E and you can't get out. So that was smart from Mlxg to buck the trend of this tournament where he's been passive, to be a lot more aggressive. And speaking of aggression,
the flash and chase for Faker. They have the damage, knocks him back up. One more shadow duel, man. Doesn't need any ability power. Faker gets him down 1-1 so far in the game. Blank walking out cleanly.
Level 4 on Zac has the extra point in the elastic slingshot and comes to Faker's lane, the one with the pressure. As he's pushing XiaoHu under the turret, you can see there wasn't even any hesitation in Faker answering XiaoHu's flash there to follow it up with his own taunt because of the fact that Blank already has the Q attached to him, and now Faker is on the prowl.
Wolf has flash, he can land one. Uzi turns invisible. Ming goes for the stop, and he buys it time. He still could have gone for the blind hook if he chooses to.
But we take a deep breath. That gank doesn't come off, but SKT have paid back in kind what Mlxg was able to do topside. We wondered why Blank was playing game 1 and it wasn't Peanut. Remember, this is world skin Blank on his own Zac skin. He is the Zac player of this team, even though Peanut has played it before. He makes the work. You can see his record here. This is actually the first time since Peanut joined SKT that Blank has started a best of 5. And I sat back and said, why? Why now? Why not sit back? But I think largely it is about winning game 1, getting some confidence, potentially even silencing the very excited crowd as top lane.
Lands a flash, lands a slow, waiting for the stun against Huni. No Ornn to be popped just yet, taking a bit of damage, lands a stun, but the taunt is on. Do they have what they need as the Ornn is out of that one? A couple more shots to duel man, and Huni to go 0-2. Here comes Faker. He's going to knock him out of Mlxg, and that's going to be spicy. Faker on his second kill.
The protection that you talked about with the Galio, level 6 comes in, and Faker is able to get the answer kill for Huni.
And he was only able to because Huni bought some time, was able to move back, held onto the orange, I believe, for a long time, got into range. Faker had the quick level 6 because XiaoHu went down, and answering that, and even controlling the minion wave to not lose creep score across the team of SKT.
He's out of mana, but LetME get a decent trade. Probably shouldn't be able to kill, but at least forces some more farm to be denied. These last few minutes will not go to SKT.
And again, let's pull it back because jungle ganks are exciting. Well, take another look at this one. First, as Mlxg walks in, Huni's going to save his orange for the taunt in the extra duration here, but immediately he gets slowed back up.
You can see Faker also only now in position. Mlxg uses his second Q to get the final bit of damage, so no ability for him to escape. A 1-for-1 overall.
Blank keeping up the pressure here as he invades with Zac. He is level 6, but Mlxg has Smite and should be able to get in himself. Now, again, pulling it back and slowing it down, while jungle ganks are very exciting, what does it do to the lane matchup? SK Telecom, we talk about those double globals. Faker, with the extra experience, diving that turret, was able to get to level 6 so quickly that he was there before LetME. He was able to transfer some of that power up to Huni, the lane that's getting attacked so heavily.
But what you can compliment RNG about is this timing is up. Mlxg face checks Blank.
2v1 up against Mlxg. Nice knock up there, waiting for the hook as well. Here comes Shen to rejoin the fight as Blank brings it back in towards the team. Faker and XiaoHu in 1v1 as well. But they split. Blank in a flawless. He's going to get his health bar dropped to 0 as the chase continues. A quick stun on towards Wolf as they still knock down that kill. Uzi getting his first. And there's the Nethergraph to find themselves one more kill. Wolf does not have a way out. And sheepishly he looks as Mlxg gets RNG's 4th kill of the game.
Now, Bang is on the run, but he's seen by a ward here. And 3 members...
Oh, the tornado locks up a bit, the flash it away. The Ulti out of Huni should be enough to buy some time, and yes, Bang stays in, but a flash down.
Huni had held on to his ultimate during the initial pick here, hoping to save that global, as this is a very long cooldown, and you need every single extra one in these global plays, but he ends up burning it in the end here as Bang is trying to escape at no cost.
Yeah, Bang doesn't actually come in and get any damage at the start. He's cut off by Ming and Uzi on the bot side. It's just a level 5 Blitzcrank and also the Zac. They don't have the damage to take down the Sejuani. Faker slows XiaoHu down in transition, but he has the Ghost, and notice, he holds onto the ult. They know they can confirm a second kill.
And RNG were looking to use the Shen ultimate proactively as early as they possibly could. LetME did not have his teleport to get back to the lane instantly, so he did lose out on a bit of minions as Huni tried to push it in, but now both top laners do have their teleports available without the global abilities.
We just saw the tail end of SKT continuing to try to answer back every time RNG wins a fight. You saw Blank and Wolf in the mid lane. They forced XiaoHu out. He did escape, but that was another attempt by SKT to get kills back.
But answering is a dirty word for SKT with this draft. This draft is not about answers. In the late game, RNG have the answering draft. This is a proactive draft. SKT are supposed to be posing questions. That's why we see them so active on the map in the early game, but they find themselves in a gold discrepancy to a team that outscales them pretty heavily in team fights. So the moment that we see so many more proactive players working for RNG, all the proactive players for SKT fail, that's actually very worrying for SKT fans.
You see, of course, he does have one kill. Sejuani to jump the wall. You saw the possible gank. Create some excitement out of the Chinese crowd here, but there won't be any fights to be had up there. Huni able to walk through his jungle safely enough. Barrels to check the fog. Says, okay, our red buff's still up, we're okay.
I would also bring up the point that SK Telecom, I don't think they get hard outscaled with this composition. They actually have a lot of scaling factors themselves, and while I do definitely note they will not have probably the Ardent Sensor in this one unless they wanted to force it into something that did not work. But the Gangplank, the Zac, the Tristana, even Galio's tank ability on the front lines, you know, do have very decent options in the late game, even in the face of a Twitch, which RNG will be playing around.
I mean, the late game is also kind of an open term, because people, when you say late game, think late game team fights, and I think out in the open with equal vision, I would take RNG 9 times out of 10. But if you can get a vision advantage, control wards down around Baron, the Baron baits from SKT, the turns from SKT are insane. So there's a field of battle where I think SKT can take great options against RNG, but straight up, I think it's going to be painful for SKT.
There we go. Maybe for Bang here in the bot lane. It's going to be a bit of slows coming out of Mlxg. Wolf still flashes, does not have an escape path. It's going to be the ulti to land the first stun, but no chase yet because the Gangplank ultimate. The knockup is here, and now Faker in the fight as well. Will he get anything for himself? He's suppressed. He's got a lot of damage reduction, plus the shield back in. Still looking at Wolf, but also at Mlxg. Force him flash away. Let's bounce gets nothing. Faker's still now running away. Knows he's seen by a ward. The chase in for XiaoHu. Oriental duel in. Voidling's got another taunt in for Faker, but one more shot from Uzi will duel him in. The deadly venom is going to make it happen. One more auto attack, and it's now 5-2 for the home team.
And Uzi is able to get some credit here. A lot of control around the bottom side for RNG. LetME, again, this time he actually has his teleport, but he's just going to save the cooldown. It's more important. No, he's not going to use it. He's going to go get the minions. There goes the teleport.
But guys, it really feels like SKT are disconnected on their damage dealers when they're making these plays, because once again, Bang, he felt like he had to use the ult defensively, knocked away 2, kept his life up, but after that, it was basically Faker disconnected from his team, unable to really have any follow-up damage, and again, RNG profit.
They're disconnected on the participants of this fight. SKT, you know, there is the option for, you know, early Huni ultimate, and it comes down, but all it really does is get a little bit of damage and zone out Ming or Mlxg here.
And the teleport from Faker, he teleports in aggressively into 3 members and also XiaoHu cutting off. There's nothing Blank can really do to make anything. There's no chance that Gangplank is going to be a big factor. He has teleport up, he knows not to use it. The ult was his full contribution. SKT were not on the same page in that skirmish.
Gotta say, a great game so far out of RNG. We've seen the analysis online, seen the game so far. Galio is a scary champion to give away, and certainly Faker's doing reasonably well, but I gotta give credit to XiaoHu, putting in the Malzahar, actually keeping up in farm, making the ropes happen as well. Same sort of, you know, kill-death ratio to a certain extent as this global Galio with the teleport as well. XiaoHu doing well to hold up against Faker.
Let's see if SK Telecom can try and work around and more involve Huni in their mid-game plan here. He's got his Trinity Force now on the Gangplank, and they haven't really yet been able to successfully use the combination of globals. Faker, meanwhile, is under attack with Blank coming in.
Stun available on Faker, still very tanky. Blank looking to bring two back into the turret. Here comes the re-engage, and they're gonna find the double knockup. Is there enough damage to be dealt? Not just yet, because Uzi is in, and he splits him in a blob. Let's turn him across. Put the hook into the turret. Is there enough for Uzi? Not just yet. The barrier's on, but now shooting at those blobs. Nice TV from Huni. Will keep Blank alive to jump back to safety. Nothing for nothing, but a lot of ultimates burn.
Continued defense here for SKT as they expend ultimates and summoner spells, and the roam here from bottom lane as well to try and stabilize.
There's still a lot of early game priority for RNG, able to make proactive plays against the sort of draft that Misfits faced in game 1 of their series and got blown away on. SKT took a bit of a gamble, going for a top laner who's strong in the 1v1, but wouldn't have jungle support early with just the nature of Zac. For now, Huni's been a non-factor, but the non-factor has farmed himself a very decent timed Trinity.
The Trinity Force factor, one of the biggest factors, and I know your favorite.
I wanted to mention it, and I was like, it's my turn to shine. Honestly, you talked about team fight power before, and I would agree 9 times out of 10 I think RNG could win that, but you talk about X factors. Who will answer Huni in a 4 to 5 item scenario? SKT's been winning through Huni's split push. Does Shen beat Gangplank 1v1 late game? I think that answer's no.
And when it comes to win conditions, how many of SKT's wins have been exactly that question, Phreak? The Trundle, or for example, one of his other picks in the top side, the Jace as well. Who will answer Jace or Trundle has been largely how SKT have found footholds and then team fights, famous ones against EDG. It's how they've completed them. So they have the Gangplank. It's different, but it fills the same role.
Here we go, another gank into the top side. Huni does get away from most of the punishment. Gets himself 10 gold with a bullet to the back of the head, and LetME shields it up, but is still pushing to his turret now. Blank getting some alone time with the Cloud Drake.
Yeah, a lot of effort from RNG spent towards the top side, and SK Telecom having faith in Huni to disengage and just absorb that pressure. Meanwhile, they take the choice here on the bottom side. In exchange for it, it's going to be a risky dragon take as Uzi comes in.
For a little bit of something, doesn't get hooked in. Now looks for the next fight to be had, but might get knocked up as Blank wants to run away from this one. Doesn't want to get himself into a fight just yet. Let's bounce popped in, gets over the wall, but a stun lands on the wall. That could be next. Blitzcrank, the passive shield pops well in from his keystone. Flash the wall, staying alive. The flash the chase. A heal comes in. The ulti. Sorry, the silence from across and finds someone. There's the ultimate, and that will be bang silence as the next kill. The next chase coming across. They will not yet get Blank, but a 2 for 0.
You can see Uzi's feeling it, going almost into the base to pick up the next kill. I love the target selection from XiaoHu. He's had a great tournament, but an unheralded one. It hasn't been XiaoHu picking up the solo kills, but so often he's where he needs to be, even against a mid laner who will roam first, and his target selection was the big thing.
Exactly. RNG sticking to the game plan here. The execution on the focus around bottom lane. Continued Shen ultimates coming in to punish these attempts from SKT. Uzi charges in fiercely on the Twitch, knowing that he has Shen ready to arrive.
From there, it looks like SKT will largely get out. Maybe Wolf will be the sacrifice, using Let's Bounce just to jump away. But Wolf has a big enough shield from Courage the Colossus and his passive. He thinks he can live. Notice that XiaoHu is in range to ult many times. He holds on to it until the perfect moment.
Uses his ghost very often here in these bottom lane skirmishes. Yes, he doesn't have a global as Malzahar to get down there, but the ghost is such a low cooldown summoner spell, and he's been using it so frequently that he has been able to be a huge factor in those plays.
Absolutely. The back end of the replay, we saw 2 flashes and a heal, not amount to the kill on Blank, but I want to point out that the Huni split push got first turret gold. Before that fight, Blank got the Cloud Drake as well, and generally first turret plus a Drake worth 2 kills its own. Right, I think SKT went pretty equal in that last fight. Map wide, if you consider that one. Now fighting the bot side, they've hooked in LetME, but he's very tanky on the Shen. Looking to survive, but getting slowed down. Blank adding more crowd control, but no damage to be had. However, still alone time with the turret.
This is the sort of draft that in many ways should have forced reactive plays. This is the first successful one, where SKT do actually get an objective lead and will answer with, at minimum, the turret and bot lane. They'd love more, but LetMe's pretty slippery.
Number 2, not quite going to land from Wolf. A quick walk away for LetME, but this turret will fall. Traded on the top side by RNG.
Really the elements that I'm looking at in this game to start to shine here as we get into the mid game and these outer turrets start to fall is the engage from SK Telecom. You talk about the Blitzcrank being a risky pick, straying away from the Ardent Sensor. That plus a Zac, if you can control vision, those are where they can actually start to open up their game plan and to start to break RNG away from this success that they're finding.
And I like that you talk about controlling vision, a very standard thing as the game has evolved. SKT has a lot more members that can put down vision and not actually be at risk of dying, as they really want to kill LetME, but so far frustrated. They have basically everyone short of Gangplank and Tristana happy to face check. They can put down the vision. It's profiting from the vision that so far they haven't been convincing.
Mid turret going to be falling, so RNG going to open up that mid lane first in this game. There's no one really punishing them, and Uzi is going to get solo gold on this as well, so we get him for the kill credit there. Of course, you've been seeing that SKT duo shoved down to the bot side, but LetME, thanks to his lane matchups, been able to stack armor and be pretty safe to it.
And SKT have to play to their control ward vision. That's where they have exclusive roam. It was bot side. It was nowhere near mid, not top side either. It was too risky for Faker to walk back into mid, so they have to give up his turret. They want Huni as well.
They land the silence. There's the ultimate orange just pop, but doesn't have anywhere to go. The barrels might not matter. Uzi on a killing speed, 3-0-1 for 2. Close enough.
The transfer of power here for RNG. They find another kill, and Uzi purchases the Infinity Edge. That combined with the Hurricane mean that RNG are very much looking to punish.
And Huni's committed to what feels increasingly like zombie pushing, returning to lane, appreciating that, yep, I'll probably die, just like he did so many times split pushing with Jace without vision, with Trundle without vision. He knows he has to create pressure. Many other teams kind of left him to his own devices. We had, say, Cho'Gath teleporting out of lane, trying to make teamfight wins. RNG are just going towards Huni, and is increasingly falling down.
And the reason we're highlighting Vision now, and we need to elaborate, is that, you know, Blitzcrank and Zach, these are some of the picks that gain the most out of that fog of war and out of that surprise, the couple of seconds of reaction time that you lose, of any champions in the entire game. But it starts to crumble when you don't have that pressure to work with and the setup.
And if you think about it, we talked about where the vision was. They're trading red sides, and that means that RNG as a blue side team will be able to put down deep vision for Baron setups, potentially see the Zac and also the Blitzcrank setting up and remove any options for SKT to play around the Baron. It gets much more predictable when the Baron dance starts if SKT cannot control their red side jungle.
We'll see where the wards go for this one. Bang, of course, on the back foot, clearing out mid. LetME getting alone time for a couple of seconds, but here comes Huni. Dodges away the barrel damage. Looks like the wave clear not going to be yet enough, and Huni going to back off the turret, give it away, and LetME going to make this now 4-2 in turrets, 8-2 in kills. And RNG looking very good so far in this series. As we've seen for these teams overall in the tournament, it's usually been slow early games, then both of them turning on a bit more later. RNG so far in control early, and maybe late game a bit more debatable.
I mean, a lot of the good options for SKT right now are a bit null because of item advantage. Uzi has 2 items on Twitch against Tristana. So Tristana right now is still very much in the scaling phase. The Galio's top lane pushing out. They're trying to find free farm for all their carries. It's a very gold-intensive lineup for SKT to get online. But RNG is setting the pace, and they're trying to quicken it with the Rift Herald in mid.
You can see we're at that 21-minute mark. Not usually when the team starts really breaking open the game for RNG at Worlds so far, but looking at the mid lane, of course, that breaks back door. Half HP on that one. They're going to zone out Bang and Wolf with the slow field out of Uzi's Twitch. And the jump comes in for Blank. He wants to fight, and he actually lands on a Uzi, but no connection on Q2.
That is an incredibly important summoner spell for SKT to have blown, though, because let's transition into a bit of the bigger picture as we're looking at 5-on-5. Uzi is obviously going to be the main target, and Huni has the armor penetration. Never mind, we're going to have a fight.
One ulti pop, but doesn't find much to do. Wolf going to flash away. He's afraid of XiaoHu's catching. He's not going to flash forward. The ghost burned, though, by the Malzahar.
There are so many things that Uzi has to keep his eyes on. Without flash now, Gangplank barrels, plus the Blitzcrank, plus the Zac initiations with Galio on his back. But now, they're going to start up this Infernal and burn it down.
And it's going to be a freebie for the side of RNG. The cross maps from RNG have been so picture perfect this game. They took control of the top side, denied Huni from having space to farm. Now he's only got an inhibitor turret to play around in the top side. And when SKT are finally like, okay, crap, let's get the red side control. We've been denied this entire game. The Infernal Drake has spawned. RNG have moved their maps. And wherever RNG have gotten on the map, that's where advantages have been piled on. And SKT, who want to go for this AoE wombo, the Gangplank ult to start it all, Zac and Galio jumping in, they've never really found their timings. They've been a bit inconsistent with when to use their ults. They're quite long cooldowns the moment they commit, and they're melee champions that hard commit. They haven't found their timings, and RNG, they're stacking up those advantages.
We have to see if RNG will be as controlled and as dedicated as they further this game. Now invading onto SKT's red quadrant.
Find the stun on Blank, and he times the ulti pretty well to kind of get away from the stun. Can't be disabled as he jumps away. Seems all right for himself. Red buff fight going in, wants to go to Bang, but the smite fight going to be in. Mlxg gonna grab it away and take that out from Tristana, and with an impending team fight over Baron, you have to assume that's a power loss that Bang didn't want to have.
Yeah, an Invader's advantage always with the smites, and every time you see one of those AoE engage ults used defensively, Twitch can move slightly further ahead, be more risky with his positioning. No QSS yet, but probably coming at some point for Uzi. Uzi's looking relatively safe, even though the draft from SKT was about anything but.
Nice little fight there. Mlxg getting himself a 70 gold as Faker has the last hit, but the rest of the camp gotta go to SKT's mid laner. Again, still, we talked about the fact that Baron controls the name of the game at this point in this one. 4 minutes to the next Drake. Mlxg on top of the ward, sees Blank, and go back and forth. He tries to get rid of some of this vision. XiaoHu here to join, though. Will they go for the trigger pull? Not just yet. Lots of magic resist on this Zac. Makes it hard to kill him.
It's important for RNG to keep threatening vision here. Okay, let's hold that point.
Broke off the pass, the hook back in. They're going to knock him down. XiaoHu has fallen. Was left alone with the team nowhere near. Not quite the chase to be had, but 1 for 0 SKT.
This is why you question, will they be as controlled when keeping up the pressure on SK Telecom? This isn't the hugest casualty, though. RNG give away a kill and some gold. Yes, that's great for SK Telecom, but they don't give up much territory, much control of the map, as LetME is continuing to pressure on this side, and Uzi's even joining. They may get some power damage.
And that was the first time Huni actually teleported to join a fight at 24 minutes. LetME did not counter-rotate. SKT got no objectives from that. That's why you can see them getting angsty, because they only got a kill. They only went for 2 to 3 kills on the scoreboard. They didn't really cement their position on the map at all, except for starting to clear out some of the aggressive red side wards that RNG had previously put down.
Go. Attempts continue. Nice little bit of stun damage, and even the turret going down. Nice last hitting by Ming, getting himself some credit there. He's got a kill as well, so beatable stuff out of the Janna. A true star guard in this game, and gonna drop out some wards. Nope, gonna leave that one up for now. Knows he's in some risk. Saw what happened to XiaoHu about a minute ago and says, that jungle is a bit afraid. Still, 6,000, 5,500 gold lead for RNG right now. A sizable, meaningful lead so far, 25 minutes in. I've yet to see those explosive fights for a few minutes from them, but they've got very nearly that 3-item Twitch here for Uzi. He's got the money he needs to turn that one into a static ship, or whatever the item's going to be for himself.
They have the items. They also have the forward-facing wards here. A lot of the deep vision is actually even being defended as they keep up the pressure while allowing Uzi that back. Now that 3-item Twitch is perfectly primed here for RNG to bait SK Telecom into a bad situation where Huni finds himself even losing very heavily the trade with LetME.
I mean, you take the right trade when you have this build, Sunfire Cape and also Titanic Hydra, the more aggressive of the tank items, and you can do very well against the brittle Gangplank. I want you guys at home to note, though, that while we're seeing a lot of things happen on the map, RNG keep pushing up, they're not taking extra objectives just yet. The inner turret's harder objective to take in the bot side. So if SKT can find their footing, actually cement some items onto their carry, that's not what they drafted for, but right now it's kind of the best case scenario. So SKT are on defense and just right now trying to get their carries to team fight level.
Also, never underestimate the damage Gangplank can put out later in the game. I kept talking about the things Uzi has to watch out for. There's huge burst damage that can come if RNG are walking into SKT territory.
See if we get the next play going. Not just yet. Blink gonna back out of turning off the Frost Armor. Mlxg gets some of that ward control for himself. Taking a quick look, and yeah, much better vision in this side of the jungle for RNG.
I mean, some of those team fights are going to be so visually noisy for Uzi to respect. You think of the times that, say, for example, Orianna ball is like hidden and you just miss it and you're on top of a shockwave. Gangplank barrel is pretty instant, is the sort of thing also that can surprise out of nowhere and do 600 to 800 damage. So I take your point, Kobe. Uzi has been on form, has been a wonderful team fighter this tournament, but this is a different style of comp than he's had to deal with previously.
Definitely true. Ming's abilities will be put to the test as well. Will he be able to time that knockback to disengage some of SKT's Uzi dive that they'll be attempting here? Right now, though, they've got control wards to work around and baiting the Baron.
And SKT don't know where Twitch is the majority of these fights. These 3 items, they cannot opt into a fight where Twitch is free hitting. The Baron's at half health.
Ooh, the satchel plant gone as well, but Mlxg forced to disengage this one. RNG gonna flash in for this. They find the slow, but there's no real catch to be had on a Bang. He is safe. They trade ult for ult though as Faker joins in. Now Uzi finds Huni. Nearly gets rid of him, trades out the ultimate himself, and is healing back up.
And all of that was without LetME coming on Stand United. RNG were just poking there to try and get cooldowns away from SKT. Look at those AoE ultimates now, Papa. The Gangplank ultimate is used, the Galio ultimate is used, and RNG still have pressure.
But they did lose spray and pray out of Uzi. That's probably the single most important skill in the entire game is, does Uzi have the R button? At this time, it's no. He traded it for Huni's flash.
Could argue he traded it also for the last of the inner turrets in the side lane. So now top lane and bot lane is bare. Turns to those turrets. You're right, RNG probably can't start up Barons, they can't turn up, but they could look for a game.
Other important skills could include XiaoHu's Nethergrass, but look for this one now as they look to take down Faker, who is alone and does not have an easy way out. The rest of the team coming in now as Blank joins the fray, but the ulti pop means the damage is going to be there. Mlxg getting his third kill, 9-3 Royal.
Killing a full health Galio, full hit through his Gargoyle's stone plate as well. Again, XiaoHu holds onto the ult till the exact precise time. In all of this, LetME is still split pushing. SKT are torn over whether to fight topside, cement their vision around Baron, or try to stop this split push. There's only bad options for SKT.
Well, again, a trade out of LetME, doing some damage on the Huni. Look at the barrel fight, wins it this time as the Shen. And he's going to be able to kite away from easy barrel chains here. Faker does have TP plus his ultimate. He can get back to those fights when he respawns.
Exactly. That's why RNG have to, again, be controlled in pressuring their advantage here. Because SKT still have teeth.
I like this look. You can see Mlxg looking like he's playing for vision control, not yet starting the Baron, but of course already on the half HP. Redemption reset to buy some time. They try to knock out Blank. The stun is there, but he's not done in time to block despite the ulti from Ming. That's gonna secure. No, he flashes in, but still the smite too early from Blank. The kill though, as Uzi has dropped the fight, re-engaged. One's gonna drop 4v4. Huni on the chase. He lands the barrel. XiaoHu's days are numbered, and they're gonna trade 1-for-1. Current health bars being a 3 versus 3 on the map. The ulti coming in for Faker, gonna keep Blank alive a bit longer. Mlxg to re-engage, only gets the cell to vision though. And he's gonna get his health right back up and multiply it a little bit longer. LetME over the wall, no, the AoE comes in time. Mlxg aims at the bloblets, and now Faker in 1v2. LetME hears the taunt, blocks out the just punch as well. The stun's gonna land as well when they need it to buy a bit more time in a Faker. Bang though, coming back in, and he has seen an award. There's no more chase.
The support here from Bang coming in. He's going to buy Faker a ticket out of that fight, but RNG do not care. They got the Baron, and they got several kills here in the crazy aftermath. Let's take another look at how it all happened.
And remember on Zac, you have multiple ways to get the pitch, not just the E or the flash, you have ult as well. It's uninterruptible. He actually gets in with the flash in smite range. First smite doesn't get it, Sejuani one does. They take the fight, but notice that the Twitch is assassinated at the start, but Bang is so low that he really doesn't do DPS. After he rocket jumps away, you can see, falls down to 50 health.
Exactly, that was incredibly close to being a kill there. And as you said, the smite was also incredibly close for SK Telecom grabbing that one, but Mlxg holds on to it, nerves of steel, and he was able to secure it as well as the kill on the Blank.
Really nice trade out of Mlxg as well. You saw, yeah, of course, Uzi not happy he died, but they got the Baron at least.
But those positives were with Uzi dying so early on for RNG. You can look at the damage dealt.
Knockup to be had. He's going to pull him back in as well. The hook not going to land, though. That was 100 units away in the re-engage in. Blank does not have the passive, but Mlxg does not have any health bars left, and he's going to fall down. The shutdown kill goes over to Huni. The chase in for Faker. Can he get the next one? No. 1-for-0 still.
Malzahar even going for a walk topside, so they're not going to reset any lanes. They've lost the Drake and Barons. There's no big objectives to take. SKT, with this overwhelming engage, from time to time have picked up the kills, but it hasn't stopped the story. The narrative that's spinning here is still RNG, always being first to push, and SKT react, and that means that this Twitch, it feels like a matter of time till he explodes in a team fight, the way Uzi has so many times this tournament.
RNG with the 9,000 gold lead, the extra Infernal Drake boosting their DPS as well. Here's another look at Blank's engage though, as he was able to find Uzi, but Wolf on Blitzcrank not able to get the follow-up. So the priority target gets back out and still can deal the DPS. Meanwhile, SKT get their kill onto Sejuani, and that puts a stall to this Baron pressure RNG were looking to utilize.
And it was all over a blue buff. At this point, it feels like SKT are going to take any fight they can, where they're not walking on wards, where they're not being with early warning signs for the side of RNG. Any fight is golden for the side of SKT, but they don't win any fight. They need the perfect one. Faker being able to zone Uzi's damage away from his carries is what a one-team fight for SKT begins with.
They get in 3 items for Bang himself. Faker pretty tanky. Huni's got his upgraded armor penetration as well. He can do some level of tank busting. RNG, of course, able to stack purely armor. You see only a Spectre's Cowl really as magic just items on the squad. They know the carries are Gangplank and Tristana. Very physical focus there. 8,000 gold separates these squads. RNG have been in control for almost all of it. They got first blood. They never really let go. Up an Infernal Drake in stats as well. Now looking into the top jungle. Into the mid lane, they found Phreak, but a lot of time his body looks back towards Uzi. Barrier used, the shield's in as well. The hook not clicking a lane either from Wolf. Can't quite land those. And as they disengage, the flashbang in! They've caught Uzi! The reset is not going to be enough for Ming, and Bang gets the kill! And now the re-engage, the chase forward. One more time will find LetME. The chase in for Blank as well. Faker dangerously low, but still limping away, staying alive. The pull back in for Blank means a second. LetME just barely staying alive with his shield though, as you've got Mlxg holding the front line, tries to pop the randoms for a slow, and it will force a disengage. Only one casualty.
SKT find themselves some more time though. They kill the key member. How many times have we talked about SKT and comebacks? So many times, multiple years, and Faker here is able to find the re-engage onto the Prime member.
Able to kill Uzi through Mikhail's as well. Mikhail's used in that particular fight, so not able to keep the Prime carry up. That was the fight, that was the pick SKT was looking for. It gets them the outer mid lane turret. Took 35 minutes just to get that first objective.
What an exciting opener to this series. You know, RNG with this huge lead and looking like they're going to take it. But here goes another look. Uzi walks up onto Faker and he gets the first hit, but Faker's going to end up with the last.
And it's Galio, right? So he's able to be this far out. You know he's not going to go down instantly. The cavalry arrives from SKT. Uzi does take one of those barrels we were talking about. Doesn't spot it through all the noisy team fights with different skills he has to avoid. And that slow is enough to start the CC chain for SKT.
Then they've got the chase here. The low health members of SKT trying to balance because they know the main DPS threat is gone. And they're trying to skirt that line to get a bit more out.
Papasmithy, you talked about Malzahar being a tank shredder to a certain degree, but honestly, Faker able to stack magic very well, and Adaptive Helm itself is an efficient item against a Leandry's user, a dot user like Malzahar is. It's honestly not easy to get through Faker himself, so was able to wade back and forth pretty cleanly. Props to him.
I said the best of the bunch. Obviously, Galio famous for being unkillable. There are still times when one person is isolated. If they get the full duration, if he's sitting on the puddle, you can actually take down the Galio. But of course, it's not going to be definitely not going to be zero sum in this game. No, it still is tricky to engineer.
It is. We're going to see the chase further towards LetME. Nice dodge, so it gets away from one of the parlay shots. 7,000 still remains the gold difference, and the question becomes: do you trust momentum where SKT started to find a couple of picks, or you still trust the 7,000 gold lead? 4-item Twitch from Uzi.
I actually start to look back and think how the teams got here, and consider that RNG played the longest quarterfinals of any team here. 45-minute average game time. They were not necessarily winning all those games at 30 minutes, but their late game team fighting was crisp. SKT also passed that test. They had many great comebacks as well. We expect this game to go long. RNG have tried to increase the pace of it. The last couple of picks haven't worked.
Here again, looking at XiaoHu, their ulti pop to get the Shen ulti out, and the team's going to run back away, but LetME will find the one-man taunt. Wolf's going to be the target, and here comes Faker. It's going to be the early disengage of XiaoHu. Block gets the shield pump. They still will not alive, but bang! And the tank is picking them all off. The Twitch getting all of them. Double kill already. Looking for the next one, but still forced to disengage. Now Faker jumped on the wall to stay alive.
SK Telecom not finding value with this Blitzcrank pick. Wolf goes in, fails to get the priority target, and then he's sitting bait right here. Uzi finds the kill, opening up onto Bang.
Yeah, Uzi actually able to get off the flank. He died in that wombo of the Galio engage pick before. This time skirts around, kills, and assassinates Tristana, and they want to love this base right now.
Teleport buys a few seconds, still in for the push backdoor bonus. Going to be dropped off all the same. 30, 20 seconds of the respawn for the major carry. It will be Inhibitor, then out. Elder Dragon, Baron, both alive.
RNG gonna reset here and travel back to that Baron pit you're talking about. They could just be setting it up for the vision, or they could actually bait more out of SK Telecom. Bang is reviving now, so he'll be able to walk from base to try and join, but RNG rushing it down.
Rushing down the Baron, no ulti available for Uzi if there is a fight to be had, but no one is even close to in range. LetME an easy recall. There's the pickup for RNG.
And SKT trying to get Elder and rush it down, but there's no Tristana here. So the speed is not that fast, and the redemption, just a check.
Teleport coming in from Shen. He'll have the flank onto Bang here to try and come from behind.
Let's see if they can get this fight in time. Baron buff on. The ulti's still not there for Uzi. Going in for the fight. It's going to be picked up by Mlxg. Picking them all up. Now the fight to begin. Look for the kills. One already gone. His Bang has lost his life. The flash forward for Uzi. Doing it the best he can. Another passive gone is Faker. Now isolated, suppressed. And there's the Malzahar damage we needed. 3 kills already for the Chinese squad. Looking for a 4th as the slow lands a perfect range for LetME. And Uzi is here, and the Wolf is gonna be falling. Uzi gets himself another 6 kills in the game. Mid lane under fire.
RNG gonna walk it up the mid lane here to the Nexus turrets.
And they're gonna have it. The celebratory channel just for good measure, but Huni cannot possibly stop this onslaught. 38.5 minutes. Game 1 is done. RNG need 2 more.
This win means so much for RNG. And guys, the reason why I say that is not just the fact that they went up 1-0 against SKT. They actually went up 1-0 in both their best of 5s last year. But it's the fact that RNG stuck to their convictions. What were they good at? Late game team fights. They went for the Twitch Janna. They did not care about giving up Galio, about giving up the early to mid game. Their read was, if it goes long, we will win. And their read was correct on the day, at least for game 1. And the confidence that will bring RNG, it's indescribable.
The question we pose to SKT coming into this match, would they be able to push RNG off of what we've seen from them this entire tournament?
They tried.
They tried, and they failed. It does bring back memories of Chicago, though,
Yeah,
where
sure.
RNG again opened up with the victory.
I mean, we've seen these series almost all go the distance. These games have been close almost the whole time through the quarterfinals. There is still life in SKT, we know.
RNG is in SKT's head. They're playing blank for the first time at the start of a best of 5 when Peanut was there. They're adjusting their style, not playing their own and trusting in themselves. They brought a lot new. A little bit of it worked, a lot of it didn't. How they go in the pick and ban for game 2, I'm so excited to find
Beating the
out.
best of 5, there's more to be played for sure. So now to get our analyst thoughts on that win, let's hand it over to Dash and our wonderful analysts.
Thank you, Phreak. RNG strike the first blow in our best of 5 today, and we're going to start where they left off. Talking about this champion select. This tournament's been a lot about adaptation in that pick ban phase, and both of these teams came out today showing us something a little bit new.
Yeah, after the amazing intro, that was one of the coolest drafts we've seen, because we've seen a lot of adaptation throughout this season, but then even just the first phase of picks, the fact that RNG showed the Soraka to potentially scare away the Janna pick set the table for a very cool sequence of events.
Yeah, and the fact that it was the opening up of the Sejuani, so they're kind of baiting again. They're calling the bluff. You know, take the Janna. We don't necessarily need it or want it because they do have the Soraka, and they allowed it to get. It allowed them to get the Janna either way.
And I mean, when you talk about the Janna, I think you then have to talk about the fact that this Blitzcrank, SKT obviously knows that they're giving over Janna. They were happy with that matchup. They know that RNG has this propensity to go late. They want to try to play this scaling comp, and a lot of it really came down to, can you execute with the picks that you've taken? With Blitzcrank, you have to be proactive. You have to hit hits. You have to be able to lane bully, and they really were never able to get anything from it.
Which is why I really want to focus in on kind of 2 picks that speak a lot to me, which is the Shen and the Gangplank, and both their relations to the Twitch pick. I agree with you wholeheartedly. If you have the Blitzcrank, you need to execute down their bottom, and every single time SKT went down there to try to make something happen, the Shen was just a massive thorn in their side. And the beautiful thing is, was talking to Deficio in between the match, what Shen protects Twitch early by denying a lot of the ability to try to kill him, to exploit his weak laning phase, Twitch then pays back to Shen in the late game. Huni could never split push, he could never overextend, because it's so easy for Shen to for Twitch to wander over into Shen's lane and to threaten that.
And I think this draft was also indicative of SKT not being happy with the status quo. They did not necessarily play that well with the standard champions. As we've said, SKT has looked weaker than they have at other world championships. So they made this giant switch into the fact that they were pushed to the Zac thanks to very clever Ivern and Nidalee bans. But then the next question is, like, can they actually play this well? And the Blitzcrank in this game from Wolf was almost useless. I don't remember a single good hook that he landed.
It was pretty much straight up a 4v5, but I do think we have to give credit as well to Mlxg for playing around what SKT had drafted, because I think his first gank was fantastic and critical
in reference to Mlxg's play in this game. Let's go ahead and take a look at the first gank thrown to the top lane, as well as the preceding fight brought to you by Acer Predator.
And it's so important to actually do this, because one of the reasons people pick GP into Shen is because you can safely farm in the early game. You can scale up and then you can take over the Shen, but they never gave them an opportunity to get there. And then the Shen is able to get down to the bot side. They're able to make these effective plays.
Yeah, and a GP teleporting in here would not be nearly as threatening. Huni also was pretty low in that lane, so couldn't teleport in. It's absolutely the Shen that set the table for Uzi to get ahead. These kills were spoon-fed to Uzi.
And it's also the fact that if that GP wasn't put behind, think of how devastating that champion would be on RNG's composition. A GP ult destroyed Uzi and the Baron Pit. A random barrel could just completely blow Twitch and Malzahar away. Like, you look at SKT's composition, they had so many different pieces and options to backline dive, to hit the Twitch, to deny everything. They were just unable to execute on it because the Shen was used so effectively.
And I also think we have to give credit over to this Malzahar pick, because I think Malzahar is so strong in the Galio, and if you're going to give the Galio up, you need to have answers planned for it. The Janna, fantastic disengage, can allow you to survive through some of this crowd control that he's putting forth, and the Malzahar allows you to actually have the Galio as a viable target, because you're putting out so much frontline damage. You're locking them down for your carries, so you're both peeling and putting out the DPS, and I think it's such a smart answer. So really both teams just played very intelligently in the draft.
And this is interesting to me because at the top of the day, we kind of talked about a few key factors for both these teams. For SKT, it was them indexing and investing in Huni in the top lane as a win condition, whereas on the flip side, we looked at Bang and Wolf as underperformers. So what's strange to me here is that they do hand over a Blitzcrank to Wolf and say, hey, we need you to get work done in the early game, where you haven't been getting work done in the early game all tournament long.
And the flag is still there. Bang and Wolf, Wolf in particular, as Azael was saying, it's still underperforming. That was a 4v5. That Blitzcrank was a worthless pick.
To be fair, though, they're giving him a pick that can make something happen in the early game, right? So you're almost trying to enable him. You're saying, hey, you guys have been failing in the early game. We give you something aggressive. We give you this gift to try to take over the game, and he failed to do so. And to me, honestly, more than anything else, this game is simply on the failure to actually perform by Wolf, because he was worthless. He did nothing this whole game.
Yeah, and I have a mixed bag of takeaways after this game. Like, RNG looked great playing through top side at the start and transitioning at bottom, and the Malzahar pick was a great adaptation. But Uzi also had some really bad positioning towards the end of that game and didn't look that happy about the win. So you're wondering how they're going to be able to transition this forward, as we've seen RNG take the first game off of SKT a couple of times already. Obviously, this one does feel a little different because of the way SKT reached in draft phase and was not able to pull out a rabbit from the hat, but it is a really interesting series still.
I love what you said to me while we were watching the game, that RNG has made a small adjustment to something that they were already executing on very well throughout the tournament, whereas SKT made a large adjustment, which to some degree might point to the fact that they're uncomfortable, at least in their play, with what they've done so far. But my question too is, now that you've seen them try something dramatically different, is that the way they should keep going? Or should they roll it back and go back to Tom Kench's in the bot lane, Soraka's, Janna's, let's survive to the late game, because we did see a couple team fights that showed that glimmer of SKT, you know, the undefeatable team.
I mean, I don't think you can blame the draft when the execution was so obviously poor, right? And it's one of those situations where you can sit there and say, oh, Blitzcrank was a terrible pick, but then at the same time, you cannot congratulate Ignar for his wonderful Blitzcrank pick, right? Like, it comes down to execution.
My intent is not to blame, but to say that, okay, you couldn't execute on this comp, so should you now move away from it?
I say yes. Okay. I think SKT historically takes a lot of shots in Game 1 draft. I've seen them give away dream compositions in Game 1 just to demoralize the enemy team. So this could have been one. We're going to pick Blitzcrank, we're going to hook Uzi 7 times, and then he's never going to show the light of day in the series from here on out.
Right.
It didn't work, so I think until we see Game 2, it's hard to make any close to conclusions on this series.
Frost, SKT to blue side, give me your thoughts on Game 2.
I'm going to push back a little bit and say that SKT, yes, they were trying to cover up the weaknesses in their bot lane, but they were still trying to play around the strengths in their top lane. They put Huni on a massive split pusher. It countered or could answer RNG's composition very well, but I think the main issue for me is that RNG are so good at playing around a split pushing top laner. Constantly Huni was getting caught out. Constantly they had answers or were rotating around the waves, and so that's where my focus focuses. If RNG can continue to control the pressure valve that is Huni and what he allows for SKT, I think they win this series very cleanly.
I mean, a look of concentration on Uzi's face there as he gets
definitely
the
looks
head
like
rub.
he has some neck pain. I mean, that can happen for a number of different reasons, but trying to get some attention backstage.
And we saw the beginnings of the famous neck pain from Faker.
Faker keeps
that
his
game.
neck very stretched.
Woo! All right, well, RNG have shown they're looking to make history. See if the reigning champs can strike back in Game 2 after the break.